Why the war in Ukraine is a huge threat for today's space missions. Nearly 3 decades of close space collaboration between Russia and the West appear to be coming to an end. With tensions rising in the aftermath of Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, Russia has reportedly threatened to collapse the International SpaceStation and deny launching satellites for Western nations. So, how will the war affect future space operations, and what will be the consequences? What do you think? Tell me in the comments section. In today's video, we will understand why the war in Ukraine is a huge threat for today's space missions, so make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell now. Without any further ado, let's jump right into the video. So, on February 24th, 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine, igniting a war whose ramifications have extended into space, with satellites providing internet and intelligence and long-standing global issues in outer space shifting rapidly. Russia's incursion on Ukraine has drawn harsh international condemnation from world leaders, including U.S. President Joe Biden. According to CNN, on the day of the invasion, G7 leaders said in a joint statement that Russian President Vladimir Putin has put himself on the wrong side of history with this invasion. For eons, the United States and Russia have worked together in space. From the mid-Cold War Apollo-Soyuz test project in 1975 to the ongoing partnership in the International SpaceStation program, the two countries have collaborated together in space amidst political turmoil on Earth. However, Russia's conquest of Ukraine has triggered a backlash among Russia Skylab partners, casting doubt on the country's cooperative spirit. Space.com's providing live updates on the Ukraine conflict and Russia's changing space relations. For many in Ukraine's booming space sector, life as they knew it came to an end on February 24th when Russian tanks rolled into the nation. Their ambitions had to be put on hold, and their skills and resources had to be redirected to assist their rebel-held homeland. Lunar Research Service, a Kiev-based startup, was among those forced to alter its plans. When the war began, the company was about to ship its first shipment of nano-satellites to Kickstarter backers. Instead, the satellites were dismantled, and their components were given to the armed services for use in communication equipment and drones, although new orders were received for the company's 3D printers. But now, instead of satellite components, they are producing bits for gun advancements. Several members of the company's staff joined the territorial defense and cyber forces. Due to this ongoing war, the European Space Agency has also concluded to halt collaborative efforts on lunar missions. After a conference of its participating countries on April 13th, ESA officials made the move. Because of the decision, a European camera experiment known as Pilot D will not take flight on Russia's scheduled Lunar 25 moon lander, which was scheduled to launch later this year. Europe will also withdraw from collaborative relationships on Russia's planned Lunar 26 lander and Lunar 27 moon rover, both of which were expected to use a navigation system and subsurface drill built in Europe. Now, Europe is trying to find a way to substitute the Ukrainian-built rocket engines used on its Vega rocket amid concerns that their manufacturer, Yashmash, in Dnipro, Ukraine, may be unable to continue supplying the engines. The dispute has also manifested itself in unpredictable ways in space. Dmitry Rogozin, the Director General of Russia's space agency, Roscosmos, warned in a series of tweets that terminating cooperation over the ISS could result in it falling out of orbit, potentially over the United States or Europe, or China or India, which has been understood as a risk. He mentioned Russia's Progress cargo ships, which provide the thrust to correct the ISS's orbit. Without them, the space station would crash into the Earth's atmosphere, where the majority of it would burn up, but some parts might survive and hit people or buildings on Earth. Although this is highly improbable because there are currently Russian cosmonauts on board, it was a concerning statement. The issue resurfaced in March when Rogozin said on a state-controlled Russian television show that if the U.S. remained hostile, Roscosmos would withdraw its support for the ISS. Rogozin made the same threat on his social media accounts over the weekend, just days after NASA Administrator Bill Nelson told him in a letter that U.S. sanctions have no impact on the two countries' ability to collaborate on the space station. Even if the ISS remains in orbit for the time being, which it almost certainly will, these ongoing tensions are a clear indication that the state of global cooperation in space is changing rapidly and becoming much more sensitive to politics on Earth. see the ISS's safety as a major concern. Russia has critical control over the space station's propulsion control systems. Because Earth's gravity gradually pulls the ISS towards the atmosphere while it is in orbit, the space station typically uses a propulsion module, which is monitored by Russia to keep it in place. However, without these regular boosts, the ISS would slowly fall into the atmosphere, where it would most often burn up. The astronauts on board would most likely have enough time to leave the space station and return to Earth. The good news is that the U.S. no longer is reliant on Roscosmos for ISS transportation, because Elon Musk responded by saying that if Russia withdraws its assistance that jeopardizes the space station, his company would step in. SpaceX's Dragon capsule is presently the only other space shuttle capable of coupling with and supplying the ISS, and thus could provide thrust if necessary. In any case, it foreshadows a much less cooperative future in space, with the ISS set to be deactivated soon, and Russia and China refusing to support the US-led Artemis initiative aims at sending humans to the moon. Despite the war, NASA has attempted to maintain a sense of normalcy aboard the ISS. The agency has posted updates on scientific experiments taking place aboard the space station, and even held a press conference to promote the first privately crewed mission to the ISS, which is currently scheduled for April 8th. Behind the scenes, however, the U.S. is racing to figure out what an ISS without Russia would look like. Northrop Grumman has already offered to build a propulsion system. Russia has also halted sales of rocket engines to the United States, despite the fact that the U.S. had banned imports of these engines several years ago, and is denying to release a batch of 36 OneWeb satellites, which are developed to provide satellite internet broadband services globally, unless the UK government decides to sell itself of its share of the OneWeb program, ensuring that they will not be used for defense purposes. So far, the UK has refused to negotiate. OneWeb already has 428 of its planned 648-strong constellation in orbit, and, like many other companies, may look elsewhere for launch support in the future. Plans for operations that will travel further into space are also evolving. Following Russia's encroachment, Romania, Singapore, and Bahrain announced their intention to join the Artemis Accords. 15 other countries, including Poland and Ukraine, have already agreed to the NASA-led set of principles, which are intended to guide how countries explore space. And despite the fact that Roscosmos was expected to send a robot to Mars alongside the ESA, we don't yet know how Russia's conflict with Ukraine will affect its cooperation with China's space program, the China Manned Space Agency, or CMSA. In recent years, the two country space agencies have developed broad plans to collaborate in space, including an effort to develop a moon base. However, this does not imply that Russia and China's space connections are a sure thing. China has not fully supported Russia's invasion of Ukraine and may be cautious of falling foul of sanctions. For the same reasons, India, which committed to join forces with Russia in space at the end of last year, may reconsider its relationship with Russia's space program. Teasel Muir Harmony, museum director of the Apollo Collection at the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum, explains that there's always the chance that Roscosmos will change its mind and reconcile with NASA. After all, the Soviet Union and the United States attempted to collaborate in space throughout the Cold War, even as the two countries competed for supremacy. He added that there has always been a combination of competition and cooperation in space between the United States and Russia. It ebbs and flows. It's an enthralling phenomenon. So this was all about the current position Space Department. I hope you liked the information given in the video. And if you have anything on your mind, feel free to comment below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to get more videos like this. Also, hit the bell icon to get the notification of the latest update in the channel. And thanks for watching!